Hello, welcome to the webinar. Looking forward to getting started here. It's the Ease Tech Talk, where we provide you about 30 minutes of educational information about the latest and greatest in technology. So let's get started. So Ease Technologies is the sponsor here today. We were founded 25 years ago. We're located in Columbia, Maryland. We provide award-winning IT services and a fantastic cloud solution, and be happy to share with you more about those if you aren't familiar with us. I know we have many customers on the webinar today, and thank you for joining us. So there's our website, and our phone number is 301-854-0010, and I'll cover that again at the end of the webinar. I'm joined today with Mark Friesian. Hey Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Mark is a senior systems engineer and architect with our company, and many of you who are customers may know Mark and have helped you on a lot of the more complicated issues they run into. I'm Dave Kyle. I'm one of the co-founders and senior vice president here at Ease Tech, and happy to have you with us. So let's just talk real quickly about our agenda. We're focusing on Office 365. We're going to talk about some new features in Office 365. I'm really going to focus a lot on how to manage your Outlook inbox. And Mark and I have talked about this a couple of times over the last few months about this being a topic and seeing what we can do about addressing everyone's inbox a little bit more through Outlook. And finally, through a few tech tips at the end, mostly mail related, but I'll have them there. And of course, we'll cover some Q&A as well. So let's get started. So Office 365 is something that, how many of our customers would you say are using, Mark?
Probably 90%. Well, depending on sectors. Some places don't, but probably something like 90%.
Yeah, and it's, if everyone's familiar with using Microsoft Office, you would download those applications, you install those applications on your Windows device or somewhere else, and you'd have access to those applications. Microsoft has expanded all this. There's a big, huge cloud backend to most all this now for everyone, whether it be through data, whether it be through files, whether it be through mail, any of these features, even applications are all now in the cloud, and they've really built out all of this across many different operating systems. I'm not going to spend a lot of details on this, but it's a subscription-based service that an individual or a company can subscribe to and have access to any different levels of a few applications or a whole lot of applications. Is that how you describe it?
Yep, and also a whole different levels of security requirements depending on what you require. You can sign up for the small business plan to the enterprise plan to mix and match everything in between.
Okay. So with it, there's your common Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. There's a few other ones that people may be unfamiliar with, and we're going to talk about a couple of those here today. OneNote and OneDrive, SharePoint for some, and many organizations used to have specific servers just for these things. Some newer applications that are available, one is Teams that came out last year, Yammer, Bookings. We'll talk about a few of these, but really, depending on what you license, you can get a lot of applications for your organization depending on the size of who you are and what you're trying to do. So let's take a really quick look at the web version just for a second, and I'm going to talk about a few items here. This is where really most all the applications are being rolled out. Sometimes they'll roll some of these out in a traditional manner as a desktop application, like in Windows or Macintosh, but sometimes they may just roll out the web version along with a mobile version. So it's kind of mix and match. There's three I really like to make sure people are aware of, and OneNote is a note-taking app, and if you're not using this particular application or another note-taking app, I happen to use Evernote. They're fantastic. They're have the ability to round trip between different devices, whether you're using a browser, a desktop system, or a mobile device. So how I use it is I'm taking a note to go to someplace. I'll drop a note into where the address may be, jump in my car, grab to my phone, and there it all is for me. And that's one simple answer of how it round trips. But there's so many other things that end up happening with this, with clipping articles off browsers and things like that. Mark, do you end up offering ideas on this?
I think one of the things that really makes OneNote and Evernote and other of those types of applications is that they can kind of bring together the content that you are taking notes about. So, for example, if you are taking a picture on your phone of a presentation you're watching, you can save that to your OneNote, and your OneNote will actually do text recognition against it, so that when you search your notes for something related to that content, the content of that picture will be indexed and be visible. So it really is quite intelligent as to how it processes your notes. And when you're searching through your notes, the search feature is really good about showing you sub content that matches your the general question, not just the specifics.
Great. I use it a lot. I think it's probably one of the better underutilized applications that's out there, is these note-taking apps for people, and again, greater productivity, keeping track of everything we get, and I think any more media and information, emails like a fire hose that we get thrown at us, and really what's important, what we want to save. OneDrive is another feature and component of all this as well. It's really kind of the back-end cloud storage of almost anything you may have using Office 365. Those of you who use Dropbox may be familiar with that cloud storage. Imagine it being, because I know some people aren't familiar with this, OneDrive is essentially a flash drive in the cloud, where you can drop something there as a file. It could be any kind of format you want it to be, a movie, a presentation, a document, and it stays there and securely, and can be accessed or shared with other people, especially when it's large documents. I know oftentimes I'm sharing a large presentation or a large picture, and it just doesn't seem reasonable to send that through an email. OneDrive is a way to securely keep those items, as well as share them with other people too. To Do is a new feature. It's more web-based as well as on your mobile devices, but it's starting to mix together with what you're doing with Outlook, where you're essentially working on a to-do list. So if you like to-do lists, I do. It helps me manage them either professionally or personally. I can keep things and keep track of stuff a lot better for me. If I'm somewhere talking to someone, I can throw it on my mobile device and then get back to it to my desktop computer. So you might want to check that out. It's very, very focused and centric on the web application, though. A few other ones, and we shared information about Teams last year. It came out from Microsoft, and it's a very integrated application that allows kind of like a mail service, but more of a capability to let people work together collaboratively with documents and information. How would you describe it, Mark?
Collaboratively for teams, think of it like traditionally you had distribution lists and for your email, and one person would send to the distribution list to talk with everybody else. Teams tries to take that to the next level, adding in, calendaring and contact list sharing, and it's an attempt to try to bring together teams beyond just email.
Yeah. I like it from a project standpoint. It doesn't have to be just that way, but I think we used it here when we were renovating the office. We had a group of us that were using Teams to kind of collaborate with documents and communication and meetings, and we set it up as a project-based thing. A couple other newer ones as well that have shown up just recently is Business Center, Bookings, and then Staff Hub. These are designed for small businesses. One is a billing, one is a scheduling for customers, another one is an employee scheduling one. So if you were to have a small business, let's say you were a retail organization, then you wanted to have someone you ran dog grooming. I think my best analogy would be something like that. You wanted to have customers scheduled in, you wanted to have employees come in and available to work that schedule. You could arrange that through these web-based applications that you're finding in Office 365. They're relatively new. There's a host more of these out there. You can see on the screen to the left, there's Delve, there's Sway, there's a whole Yammer, there's a whole bunch of other ones that Microsoft's been adding to all this. All right, let's keep driving forward. Kind of the meat of what we wanted to talk about today is managing your email a little bit better and how you can deal with it through Outlook. So some of the things I think that we all run into is junk. I'm going to talk about clutter and focus, folders, rules, and how to archive some of this. And I think if you kind of work towards this in a managed way, it's going to take some work on your own. I ran into this probably last year where I just felt overwhelmed. My inbox was up to 14,000 emails. It was really kind of annoying me. I don't like to usually keep it that way. I made a transition a couple of years ago where all of a sudden I just stopped managing all my email. and all of a sudden it just became unruly for me to deal with. So I decided that I'm gonna take charge this year is what I want to do, my New Year's resolution. So which is where I wanted to share with some information here. So let's take a look at, I'm going to talk about something, and Mark, you mentioned this to me. I told you before I was going to try to accomplish no email in my inbox.
Yes.
And what's that referred to?
So inbox zero is the idea of basically treating your inbox as almost as a to-do list. If something is still in your inbox, it means it has not been dealt with. And so as you deal with the emails, you move them out of the inbox, or you delete them as appropriate, or you archive them as appropriate, so that by the end, if you see your inbox with nothing in it, it means that you have dealt with or scheduled all of the items that needed to be handled by email.
Now, do you do this?
I don't. I'm not an inbox zero person,
Right.
but there are many different approaches to dealing with email. The advantage of inbox zero, I think, is for people who are anxious about their inbox and about the content of their inbox. It gives a clear yes, I'm done, or no, I still need to keep going until this is done.
Right.
It's a way of handling the overwhelming number of things coming in. And there's ways of automating okay, this is just stuff I don't need to deal with, so that you're left with just your to-dos, and then you deal with the to-dos, and then it's either scheduled or done, and then you have a clean inbox and you can kind of breathe. So that's where I think that is most helpful.
I went back to inbox zero this year,
Mhm.
and I had done it previously for quite a while, and I feel much better doing it. I don't think most people do it.
Mhm.
So, and honestly, it's not inbox zero, it's near inbox zero, meaning
Right.
I may have 10 or 15 items there that I'm kind of dealing with. I
Right.
use that as my to-do list like you described.
Right.
Today, I will show you my inbox on a couple different platforms. You're going to see more than 15 or 10 items there, though, because I was sort of letting it build up the last couple of days to kind of do some demonstrations if need be here today. So inbox zero, how you manage it though, and Mark, feel free to jump in here. You really have to eliminate the junk that comes in. That's the first thing. And actually, you may not see it using Outlook, but there's a lot of filters on the front end that as stuff's coming through, it's automatically deleted before you can get to it, right?
That's about 99% of email that flows in. It never makes it anywhere near your inbox. It just gets sent out to spam filters, phishing filters, just general junk that comes in randomly across the internet. Most of that just you never even see, not even in your junk mail folder. It just doesn't come.
Doesn't get in there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So even when the stuff that does come in, there's still a lot of junk, as you may know. So we're going to talk about that. The next thing is mitigate clutter. Okay, and I'll explain clutter in a minute here, but that's essentially maybe non-essential emails that are coming through. How do you recognize those? How do you deal with them? And how do you train Outlook to manage that better for you? And I started doing this, and I really like it a lot. Of course, you need to manage what's important. We're going to talk about that, and then file away what I need. And that was what I was doing a lot more of, was managing what was important to me and kind of keep it in the right spot. So whether you're really trying to get to inbox zero, you're just trying to have a better control of what's coming in, we're going to offer a few features, some of which you may know, some of which you haven't used, and some of which are just some reminders. So let's just take a look at some of these here. So junk and spam is probably the biggest one. I think that most people would say that it's really a lot that's happening here with this. And there's a few ways you can go about it. And there's junk email options, block centers, and training Outlook to kind of deal with it. So Mark, do you have a recommendation for typically how to junk with email?
The problem with the reason why there are so many options here is it really depends on your use of email. Mm-hmm. If for example, you are somebody who is public facing and you're receiving a lot of if your email address is on the website, you're going to get a lot more junk email, and some of it is going to look like junk and be legitimate. Whereas if you're in, if you're lower down the totem pole and you're really only getting internal emails, you can probably afford to set your junk mail filter to high and block out a lot more things, because you're really only getting emails from inside.
Yeah.
So there's not a one size fits all answer on this. And it really depends on how much you are comfortable with seeing, and if you feel like you are able to filter out both the junk and the phishing and viruses, because that is part of what might get through. Yeah. And so setting your security higher might filter out some things, but then you should go back and check to make sure that nothing legitimate went through.
So the biggest thing for me that I learned over the last several months was really being diligent about not only setting my options, okay, which is really important, but I think what I liked the most was going through and actually dumping stuff into junk email, okay? And so is Outlook then being trained to recognize these things then?
That's right. So the junk email filter is trying to, whenever you drop something into the junk email, or if you can also right click, there's a junk button at the top. There's 5 different ways of marking things as junk depending on your platform. But then your specific mailbox will learn based on what you say whether maybe every time you receive an email from Abercrombie and Fitch, it should go to junk. Even if it's legitimate and something you signed up for, it'll be in the junk mail if you want to go find it. If not, that's fine. One person's junk is another person's treasure, so Outlook doesn't know. It just does a best guess, and the more you tell it, the better it does a job of it.
Yeah, the other thing I'd suggest on that one I've experienced myself is you got to look at your junk email to make sure you're not too much is getting in there.
Right.
It can be a little aggressive or do 99% of what you want to do correctly, and that 1% is something I thought that was something I needed to save. So you got to check it once in a while, but it does learn.
It
right?
does.
Okay.
That's right.
All right. So let's move on to Clutter. And do you use Clutter?
I personally don't.
Yeah. I like it a lot. Okay. And I'll explain Clutter. So there's 2 things that are going on. I'll keep it brief, but Microsoft's introducing or has introduced the idea of the next level of items. Okay. So you have junk and clutter are things that you may want, but you're not really quite committed to them as spam or junk email. So I like these things. I'm not really ready to just throw them away and never look at them again. Now, to confuse it though, unfortunately, Microsoft's also introduced a new feature or a newer feature called Focused. And Clutter and Focus accomplish the same thing in different ways.
Right.
Okay, so but I'm going to show everybody how to do this. You need to turn these on, and Clutter and Focused are both tools that end up being trained just like junk did. Okay, so you have to, I'm looking at the help section here. You can go to your help in Outlook and it'll show you how to turn this on. And again, I'm not doing specifically because it's a little different on different license versions as well as different operating systems and things like that, but it's the same concept of I get, say, a newsletter I don't think is junk, but I want to keep, so I'm going to throw it in Clutter. And so it puts it in a folder there for me that, and if you look down here in the lower left-hand corner, I now have a Clutter folder. And inside there, I do want to get this information, but I just want to get to it in a pace and a time frame that I want to get to, not when it's being thrown in my inbox. Okay, so it's a little more manageable. It's not junk, but it's not important.
Right.
Make sense?
Yeah, it's maybe something you want to look at once a week as opposed to deal with when it comes in.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to jump over to Focus because it's, again, the same concept as Clutter. They just deliver it to you in a different way, and it's more of a visual thing. So you have to turn Focus on as well. It's available on your web browser, and it just became recently available in your Macintosh Outlook, and it's available on some versions of Windows. And that's why I think that if you understand the concept, you always have Clutter, but you may have Focused. Again, same thing, you're training it, you have to turn it on, and it works with your iOS version of Outlook as well. So when you turn it on, it's going to say that Focus is going to be your priority and Clutter won't be used anymore. Okay, so you don't need no longer need to throw things into your Clutter folder. But I like this because, again, it starts eliminating all this extra stuff that's coming through for you. It gives you a little note, hey, you're welcome to Focus. Now it's in your inbox, but it looks a little different. I'll show you where it looks different. The big thing is now Focused is up in the upper left-hand corner of your inbox, and there's another other. So both these are buttons that you'll click through, and you can select, and I'm going to jump in out of this particular presentation and show you what I'm talking about. Let's do that right now real quick. I'm going to jump over to my Outlook. I'm not sure what's come in. So I have Other, which is a whole bunch of stuff that's maybe not important to me, and then I have Focused, and this is going to be up here. So this right here, I don't necessarily need to see it as being important to me. So I'm going to send it over to Other, and right now it's over there, and it's got trained to come over here for me as opposed to me having to be my priority. So again, I have junk, I have then less important things, and it's dealt with either through Clutter or with the Focus that I turn on.
Right, and the thing to understand there is that you're looking at the inbox in both cases.
Yeah.
So this whether you're in Focused or Other, you're seeing the inbox, the same inbox folder, It's just you're picking a view. I want the focus stuff, or I want the other stuff for every once in a while.
And right now I'm training it. I'm just teaching it to have any of these emails that come in are just going to go into um, my other folder. Other things that are coming through here are things that I think are important. So I have 16 items in my inbox that I haven't, that are important to me. Okay. And you see my other has 43. So again, I would get to that maybe at lunchtime, as opposed to having to deal with it all day long. Let me just show you. I'm going to jump over to our cloud workspace. Basically, this is a system that allows me to run Windows on a virtual environment in our cloud servers that are kind of on the back end. So I can run Outlook over here. So this is my Outlook inbox, and I don't have Focus running here. But if I want to use Clutter, which is down in the lower left-hand corner, all I do is simply drag that over and drag it into Clutter. So either of these methods are going to start teaching Outlook to either recognize what's important to me, what's not. Again, right here, I don't need to see this as they come in, but I want to see them and not delete them. So, and this one may be junk, so I'll teach that down to junk. So I'm teaching Outlook to say, hey, look, what's important, what's not important, and prioritizing what I have going on. Okay, so I'm going to get out of my, again, I'm a Macintosh person, but I'm running Windows virtually in the cloud right now. Okay, so I'm going to get back over here. If I'm going too quickly, let me know here, gang. I'll slow it down a little bit. But again, each one of these is a step to help reduce the amount of junk you have coming in, clutter coming in, and allows you to manage it in a more reasonable way. Actually, let me just do this real quick too. So I have time. I'm gonna just bring up my see if I can do this here. Let's keep things going. Sorry, I'm gonna bring up my phone actually, and you can see that as well. As it says, it's there. It is. Okay. And in my phone, this is Outlook on my phone. Just off to the side here, everybody. So here's my phone, and you can see Focus is working on my phone as well. So I'm using Outlook, which is a great application, by the way. If you haven't been using it for your mail, it's outstanding. It not only lets me have this focus capability, so I'm not just getting all this stuff running through my inbox, but also has my calendaring app right in there as well. So I have this in one application. I have mail and calendaring through Microsoft Outlook on my iOS. Okay, so let me get out of there. We'll go back to the presentation. And Mark, you say you use folders. Want to talk about how you use folders?
Sure. So folders are kind of the classic way that people have done email from the start is, so rather than having everything in the inbox, you set things aside into a separate folder, whether it be a folder under the inbox or under the mailbox set aside. There's a lot of different ways of doing it. You can do it by company that you're dealing with, or you can do it for example, by the usage that you make out of it. So maybe it's an HR issue versus a development issue, or maybe it's so it really is a free form filing system. The main thing that people get in trouble with folders is that they will have multiple competing methods for sorting their email. So maybe some will be by who's the person in the email, some will be by what company they're on, and some will be by what type of email it is. And then they get confused as to where their things are. And some people like to get into huge amount of detail and have 15 subfolders of subfolders. Really, there's not a wrong way as long as you know where everything is and you can track it down. That's great, but we do see some people getting themselves in trouble and having so many subfolders that they can't find their own things. And really, that's why Microsoft has come out with these focused inboxes and junk mail folders, and focused is trying to help people be organized in how they do it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, please.
No. I was going to jump over to rules. You finished there?
Yes, and then that's where exactly where the rules come in.
Yeah,
Is
okay.
rather than having to manually drag and drop things into folders, even multi-select, you can set a rule of anytime I receive an email from person A, send to folder person A. Anytime I receive an email from customer B, send to folder customer B. Anytime I receive an email that has in the subject, hey, I'm looking for a quote for this product, send to quotes request folder.
Yeah.
Really, rules are very powerful. They're one of those things that once you use them, you fall in love with because you can really control them down to a T. However, they're also a little bit dangerous
Right.
because you can have them do bad things.
Yeah.
You can set a rule to reject emails of everything that comes in with the letter A in the title. And that's probably a bad idea, but it will let you do it all day long. And you will never know that something was rejected because you made that rule.
That's why I had that test on there at the end, because you can definitely get yourself in trouble. So, and I wouldn't like throw in 10 or 15 rules at one time. You kind of do them incrementally, a little bit at a time, make sure it's working, and then move on and get more sophisticated what you're doing.
Right.
I know a lot of people use them, a lot of people don't, but I think in combination of things we're talking about today, everyone's going to be pretty well much better off they were before if they use a combination of all these things. You familiar with cleanup?
I am. I typically don't use it, but I know exactly who it is that it's for. It's trying to use those rules to provide an automated cleanup.
Yeah, so in the Windows only version of Outlook, there is an option there to do cleanup folders and subfolders. To me, it almost seems like it's a nuclear option here of trying to get rid of everything that it thinks you may not need.
Right.
So I'm not quite ready to throw myself at it just yet for that to happen. But it's another, if you really want to get rid of everything and can you just drive down to zero, you can get there. And they actually even talk about it as an inbox zero feature. So it can really help you eliminate a lot of what you have going on there. Kind of continuing forward, I'm into the next area of Outlook is just a reminder about security. This is an email I received. It's a Microsoft Outlook telling me to set a new password. Just a reminder, this was a phishing expedition. And if you look across it may be hard for you to see, but this did not come from Microsoft. Okay, this was a phishing expedition to try to get me to provide my authentication credentials to this organization. These bad guys who wanted to then take advantage of my inbox. So just a security reminder, phishing, we have a whole bunch of webinars that we do kind of 2 or 3 times a year about keeping yourself protected in your business. So pay attention to those in the future. We're happy to help provide training, and we do that for our customers.
We do.
And also have some webinars like this as well. Just a few last minute things here I wanted to share with you as we wrap up. Email to meeting tip. Mark told me, oh, I know all about that one. I've seen that one before. So I'm gonna bring that up here real quick. So I had Mark and Andy Finnemore send me an information. Actually, I think it's I can just click the meeting button here, and what it does, it automatically sets an email from the two of them. If I have something going on, I can easily set up a meeting quickly and easily. So I'm not having to go into meeting or calendaring, see who's around, what's going on. I can automatically just take an email of this conversation and say, let's just pop this in and make sure that conversation continues in a meeting somewhere.
Yep.
All right, so that's a really good feature. I'll send that out to both of them. I'll send the invitation, and that's quick and easy to set a meeting between two or more people, or when something like that's happening. Another one out there is Excel forecasting. I'm going to jump over to, this is a new feature actually. And what Excel forecasting is when you are using Excel, and let's say I'm tracking hurricanes, which everybody does, don't they, Mark?
I think so. We have to.
Sure. In the data feature, data set here, the menu, you have a new feature called forecast sheet. What it does, it takes that data and actually does a forecast. So you can extrapolate information out. So I know many of us, we have a lot of accounting customers who are desktop spreadsheet junkies. There's a way to use forecasting now that's pretty quick and pretty easy within Excel. Again, new feature for everyone to use within Excel. You can just create a spreadsheet then that has the forecasting methods in there, which is kind of nice. So That was another one that was new. We'll just remind everybody, if you do have an Apple Watch, you can run Outlook on your Apple Watch. I think I use it personally. I enjoy it. I use Outlook on my phone. So between the focused feature that I have running, I only get the emails coming across my phone that I want to see. It's been pretty nice. I do want to share with everyone just some other ways about some other training. I'm going out of time, but I do want to talk about that. And some other training that I want to mention to you is that I used to enjoy an organization called Lynda, and they provided some really great online business training. And as a result, LinkedIn bought them out, and then Microsoft bought out LinkedIn.
Yep.
But they're still available, and you can get what's called LinkedIn Learning, and I think it's about $24 a month. So if you're trying to help your team, yourself, become more proficient at some of these new features that are always coming out, that's a great way for anybody new to the organization you've just hired to kind of get up to speed on some of the utilities and capabilities and all these things that are available now by Microsoft through these online learning. Also, supportedoffice.com is another browser-based kind of environment that you can log into and get to that provides a lot of the information as it becomes new as well. It's not maybe as in-depth. They'll have little snippets of information about the new things that are happening, but I find it very useful as a resource to get to anything.
And Microsoft has definitely stepped up their game on support for Office 365. For a long time, their support was you'd have to put in a ticket and wait for 4 hours for somebody to call you back. They've definitely spent a lot of time and effort making Office 365 support a pleasant thing as opposed to a chore. And it's starting to pay off. We're definitely seeing improvement on their side on that.
Great. I'm going to field questions in the form of emails. Okay, we're running out of time, so if anybody has a question, you can send it to me. I will respond back to everyone with answers. And just remind you that Ease Technologies was founded in 1993. We're located here in Columbia, Maryland. We provide award-winning managed IT services and a fantastic secure cloud solution that people should hear about. If you don't know about that, it's something that's the virtual office in the cloud. We have increased security. We reduce any and all servers that you may have. It provides you the ability to work from anywhere on any device. And I was demonstrating that earlier when I was running Office and Windows on my Macintosh. So we have a lot of customers that are using it. We'd be happy to help you out. Please feel free to contact me with any questions, any other issues you want to have, or if you want us to talk to you about how we can make your business better through improved technology, please give me a call. I did record this webinar, and I'll share a link to you if you want to share it with your associates later on. And just want to thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Mark, thank you for joining me as well.
Appreciate it.
All right, everyone have a great day.